Hey, what's going on everyone? Today we have the opener guide for patch 16.7. We're going to cover what to do in the early game and pretty much everything you need to know about stage 1 and 2. So first thing we're going to do is cover the broken openers, then go into all the unit priorities, auto take augments, and also how to navigate win and lose streaks in this patch, and also how to play generic AD and AP lines. So let's get into the broken openers. So first things first, we have the vertical comps and the hard force comps you can play. These are openers where if you get like a lot of units of that trade, for example, for Ionia, if you just get Ionia start or a Yasuo early, you can just hard force Yone and Ahri reroll. If you get a Vayne orb, meaning during stage 1, you just get a Vayne on your bench from the loot orbs, just hard force Demacia Kaisa. Sion, you go into Mel Fast 9 or LeBlanc and Darius reroll. Any upgraded Yordles can go into Annie Silas, and then early Bilgewater goes into Bilgewater. If you get any of these combinations early on, just hard force the comp almost no matter what. I'm not going to say 100% because it does depend on your item drops and also sometimes the augment that you get on stage 2. But for the most part, you really can just hard force these if you get these units from stage 1. So next thing we have are some conditional things. So if you get Emblem Augments, Jinx Flex, and Freljord Seraphine are both pretty nice comps to play. You could also play like Rise comps with emblems, and then artifacts are really good for Slayers and Tryndamere reroll. Pretty much any reroll comp artifacts are going to be good in. And then speaking of reroll, too much value, you can just hard force Aphelios reroll. If you get a Leona or Zoe, hard force Targon Malzahar. And next, if you get Ahri, you can just hard force Ahri reroll. So these three comps are all very simple to do, and they're all very strong comps to play. Last up, if you want to lose streak, so lose streak just means you have to do reroll comp in this patch. The reason why is because everyone who is win streaking goes fast 9 comps, and when that's the case, you need to be able to stabilize and kind of punish them in stage 3. If you just lose every round until stage 4, you can't realistically play fast 9 or fast 8 unless you get some crazy specific games. So for the most part, if you are playing lose streak, you have to play reroll. It stabilizes you really hard starting on stage 3-2 or 3-5, depending on if you're doing 2 cost or 3 cost reroll, and overall just like a very good way to play the game. So next one up, we have the units to hold on stage 1. So pay most attention to the S and A tier, ignore pretty much the C and D tier. The B tier, if you get them upgraded, great. So for 1 cost, it's going to be Jarvan and Sona. Demacia is just really good right now because you can play the Kaisa Demacia comp. It's pretty much just like a nice, easy line to play with. Kaisa is very flexible. You have different types of carry options in Demacia. You could also just go for Demacia Rise if you really want to. And then after that, we have some of the Yordle stuff. And we also have the Kiana Briar combo, which is just really generically strong in stage 2. So these are the types of units you want to prioritize on this patch. Next up in the B tier, these are like supportive units that complement some of the ones in the S and A tier, or they're just okay things to hold if you have nothing better to do. And if you get them upgraded for free, you get them upgraded for free. The C and D tier, D is like, don't even pay attention to this unit. Right now, Piltover isn't that great and T-Hex sucks. For Zon stuff, there are just better ways to get into it. It's never like a first choice to play. And then Shadow Owls isn't that great right now. Like, you can play it. They're just much better things to go for. Now let's move on into the 2 cost units. So 2 costs are a little bit weird. There are some solid guys out in the S tier. Sion and Yasuo are going to be the main 2 that I'm going to be focusing on. Sion gives you access to LeBlanc. Yasuo lets you go into Ionia, gives you a chance to unlock Yone a little bit earlier in the future. Orianna is a pretty good unlock to use in the early game. Nico just has great traits, unlocks Ixtal, and also is just solid traits in general. Arcanist and Defender matched up with a lot of the units that we're going to cover in this video, so that's why these are all strong in the S tier. In the A tier, Aphelios, just a great AD item holder. You could also reroll him. Graves, great for Bilgewater, same with TF. Vi, again, traits. Triple traders just fit in a lot of different comps. In the B tier, we have the slightly worse comps, like the Voids aren't as useful. Demacia is good, but you mainly want to play Demacia when you get Jarvan 2, Sona 2. So these 2, while useful, aren't as important to get. And then in the C tier, Teemo is going to be a Yordle. Yorick, I guess you use him if you're forced to use Viego. Yorick is a good unit, don't get me wrong, but Shadow Owl is just not super duper duper OP right now or anything like that, just because people are mainly doing the fast 9 or reroll stuff. Next up in the D tier, pretty much ignore these units. It's the Ashes, the Echoes, the Tristanas. There are very niche situations to play them in, but for the most part, you're pretty safe to ignore them. In the 3 costs, this one's pretty straightforward because in the S tier, we have Vayne, Ahri, and LeBlanc, all rerollable units. In the A tier, Zoe and Leona, the 2 rerolls, and then Draven, great for AD Fast 9, and Jinx, also reroll potential. And then the B and Cs, they're okay units, you know. You need them when you need them, but if you don't, then you don't. I know that sounds very silly, but they really are just complementary units to all the good stuff in all the other unit costs. But now that we know the unit priorities, let's move on into the augments. All the reroll augments are at the top. Too much value, prismatic ticket, patience is a virtue, hefty rolls. These are all very viable for all the reroll comps. If you don't really know what you're doing or don't have any game plan yet, branching out, spreading roots, Legion of Threes, trait tree, any of the augments that give you emblems are really good in stage 2. For some of the verticals, Bringer of Ruin is great for Noxus. It did get nerfed a little bit, but it still is very powerful. Just because Noxus is good, you just get a lot of different comps that you could play around there. You could do Mel or the LeBlanc comp. Ixtal Expeditionist for Ixtal, just hard force that. Unsealed from Steel, Darken Staff. Let's do a little data checking right now. We're going to type in Darken, and you can see that all the Darken items do pretty well. The most played one right now is going to be the Staff. You use that a lot with the LeBlanc, Ari, those types of units. For the bow, you could use like Vayne or Jinx. And then the Aegis, any tank can use that. And then the Scythe, mainly going to be Yone, but pretty much any melee carry can use that. Next, we have Portable Forge or Living Forge, any of the ones that give you artifact items. These are good, it's just dependent on your situation. You just need a data check. There's really nothing else you can do there. Just go to teamfight.lol, go to artifacts, and obviously the darkened stuff are artifacts themselves, but here you could get a list of literally everything. And note that the average placement is a little inflated just because Ornn exists in this set. So in the new set, which we will be coming out with soon, you'll probably notice that the average placements of a lot of these artifacts will actually get higher, meaning they're going to be worse. But for the most part, a general guideline is that if you have some item combination with a unit that averages 4.0 or better, so you could click on one of these and then just look here, it's probably going to be a decent comp to try out. Ignore the legendaries because legendaries are good with everything. So Death's Defiance with Warwick is pretty good. It's at a 3.92. Yone okay at 4.18, Darius okay 4.06, Mbessa okay at 4.28, but pretty much the 4.0 mark is going to be the breakpoint to just like super hard force. Anything above that you can flex into it, no problem. But hey, this opener guide is about hard forcing and giving you a game plan at the start of the game. 9 lives is good for reroll. It allows you to spike on 3-2 or even 3-5 depending on your situation, so that's always really good in this current meta. Worth the wait, good for any reroll for 2 costs. Seraphim Staff, solid for AP comps. And then Infinity Protection, good for pretty much a lot of different comps. You could check out the interactions here, but any melee unit just makes it really good. And then you have a bunch of the other ones that are good when you have nothing else going for you. Next up, we have items. So items are pretty important in the early game, mainly because it decides what direction you're going to go into. So items need to be both flexible, good early, and also a best in slot for a unit that you're going to use eventually. I know that's very hard to fit in all one characteristic, so I think the best example of that is Rageblade. Oh yeah, it also has to fit your board too, but Rageblade's really good because it is best in slot for some units. It's really good in the early game because the fights last pretty long, so you get to stack up your Rageblade, and it does give you a sense of direction. Some of the other items, they're still good, but they're a little less flexible, or maybe just a little less powerful. For example, like Void Staff is a good item, but it's not a good first item. However, you do absolutely need it eventually, so you can slam stuff like Void Staff early, or like the other utility items, but other item combinations might be slightly better. But pretty much, you really just want to avoid the bottom 2 tiers of items. The reason why is because these are either highly situational items or just not that powerful right now, or like very niche, you know? Like Deathblade, it's really only good on very few champions. Hand of Justice, it's pretty niche as well. And then Ionic Spark is just bad. If you have to make it, you can. Like if you're super win streaking, then yeah, make these bad items. But for the most part, I'd focus more on the S and A tiers, depending on what direction you're going into. But right now, AP is good. So like Shojin, Jeweled Gauntlet, things like that. All the AP items are going to be really valuable right now. Next, let's talk about how to find and decide on an opener. Pretty much, if you got one of the situations we already talked about, you can just hard force that line. If not, you have to look at whether you can win streak or lose streak. Right now, win streaking is going to be the best way. It usually always is, but it's especially good now because Fast 9 is meta. You absolutely need to win streak with Fast 9. A lot of people are like, oh, Fast 9 is good because you just econ up, you get like double econ, and then you hit level 9. You could lose streak, get even more econ. No, that's not true at all. You're going to die before you hit level 9 in a lot of cases. That's why you need to win streak or at least do some like win-lose or something like that. But if you win-lose, you don't have enough econ to go level 9 unless you have super econ. So right now, win streaking is going to be ideal because it just lets you get into level 9 so easily for free, essentially, and then it allows you to play for first place. So comps you could play from that are going to be like Mel Fast 9, Rise Fast 9, Annie Silas Fast 9, Honestly, the other comps can still be played too. Like, obviously, win streaking is never bad. Like, Kai'Sa's good, Bilgewater, Ionia, things like that. But when you are win streaking, the unit priorities do change a tiny bit. You want to focus more on the units that actually help you win, obviously. But there definitely is a lot of overlap between the unit tier list that we covered from before. But pretty much the Demacia stuff's good, Bilgewater, like all the comps that we talked about, that's how the unit priorities are going to go. I'm sure you all are smart enough to kind of understand that. If not, TFT might not be the game for you, unfortunately. But yeah, if the unit says the trait on it that I talked about in these comps up here, and by the way, you could like click into these comps to get taken to the tier list, bunnymuffins.lol/meta, and you can check out all the late game boards that are played with these comps. But that's pretty much what you want to do from a win streak. Go for the Fast 9 comp. You still can play the other stuff, but it's just more ideal with Fast 9. And pay attention to all the hard force stuff that we talked about before, too. If you are lose streaking, reroll is going to be the name of the game. Ionia, Ari, Noxus reroll, Jinx Flex, Targan Malzahar, and also Ionia Yone is pretty good, but mainly the rerolls are really good. Pretty much anything that can stabilize in stage 3 is going to be really good with lose streaking. And pretty much you want to lose streak when you have no direction, no upgrades, and an econ augment, and ideally no one else is lose streaking as well. That way you don't grief each other. But one unit to pay special attention to is going to be Bard. Bard is so good in this meta right now because if you are lose streaking, you just get a bunch of free rerolls with Bard that helps you stabilize really hard with 3 costs in stage 3. So you can just unlock Bard early, lose a bunch of rounds, get a lot of eco that's guaranteed, and then once you hit stage 3-5, roll down for your 3 costs, get like Ari2 plus Kennen 2. Maybe if you're doing the Zoe Diana combo, get those both 2-star as well. So there's a lot of different things you could kind of do there, which makes it really easy, all because of Bard. I'm actually going to miss Bard in future sets because maybe the lose streak into reroll line isn't going to be as strong without him, but I'm sure they'll put something else there instead. But one special mention unit that I have is going to be Jinx. Jinx is playable from lose streak because you need a lot of specific items from bows. So lose streaking allows you to get first pick on carousel, and it also helps you unlock Singe, which is really great for Jinx. She is one of my favorite lines to lose streak with just because of that. But you can check out all the other notes on this page and guide. It's all free, bunnymuffins.lol/openers, if you want to dig a little deeper into how everything really works. Next up, we're going to talk about generic openers, the AD and AP lines. Qiyana is always really good to play in the early game, just because in stage 2, she's one of the strongest units, so she can pretty much hold anything. I have a random hodgepodge of items here, just pretty much any AD or melee item she can use. It could be stuff like Infinity Edge, it could be stuff like the healing items, or maybe like even Rageblade. Like Rageblade obviously isn't best in slot on Qiyana, right? Like we're not kidding ourselves, but she's great because she could hold literally anything, and you could also play her in Ionia and a lot of different comps like Noxus down here. So you could just use her as an item holder and then sell her once you get a better unit and save your item removers for the late game, which is one advantage you could kind of bank to try to help you get first or second place. But some comps you could play from this type of opener is obviously the Ionia comps, Slayers, and things like that. In the Noxus build, you could do something like Slayers or AD Fast 9. If you're playing around with AP, we'll talk about that later, but obviously you'd want to play around LeBlanc. If you ever get Draven, like obviously Draven better than Qiyana, all you have to do is play a very similar board with the Noxus units, but add in a quick striker, so that's going to be Ashe or Viego. Obviously, you'd go for something like an AD Fast 9 with this build, and then Void Draven also works. Aphelios is great with anything. For the AP lines, LeBlanc is very solid. Just play her with any Invoker plus Noxus, and you pretty much just get a very easy stage 2 if you do get a Scion early. There are things you could do with like Caitlyn Kog'Maw. These are great because they can hold anything. This isn't the strongest board, but they are made up of like very cheap units. And it's pretty much just like any generic frontline backline combo. You just have 2 tanks and 2 damage dealers. Orianna, we talked about her a lot. She's just a really good early game unit. Obviously put AP items on her and then sell her later to pivot into something else. And then Zoe works in the same way as Aphelios, where you just play her with any random frontline. Doesn't have to be bruisers. It could be defenders. It could be juggernauts. It could be wardens. Literally anything works with Zoe in the backline. And then obviously Arcanist defenders. This is going to be one of the best ones to play because this one goes into the Annie comp very, very easily. 1, you're starting out with Yordles. 2, you could get to 8 Yordles pretty easily from here, which gives you a lot of econ. 3, like you hold the same items that you can pivot onto both Sylas and Annie. For those of you who are familiar with the tier list, you already know that Annie really likes mana items, and Sylas really likes a healing item, defensive item, plus Jeweled Gauntlet. So you could just throw those on Lulu and then swap them over onto something like Ari. or even Teemo, and then eventually put them on your Annie and Silas. Other things you can consider going with AP again is going to be the Ryze comp. Ryze is a little bit worse right now. I bumped him down to the A tier from the S tier, but he's still obviously a very good option, but hopefully this pretty much covers everything you need to know about game plans at the start of the game. Always check the broken openers section. This one is always going to be the best thing to do. Pretty much if you get any of these, just hard force them and do whatever. As long as you're uncontested, you're probably going to have an okay game. The thing is, you don't always get the specific units you want. Like Vein Orb, this doesn't happen all the time, you know? If you don't get any of these conditions, check the Augment section, and then if you don't get that, you actually have to learn how to play and then read all these sections that I have down here for both win and lose streak and generic openers for AD and AP. But hopefully that should help you out in your climb and journey in patch 16.7. I pretty much update this opener guide every single patch, so definitely bookmark this page if you are interested in learning how to navigate the early game. But apart from that, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you are able to share it with someone that you know who is struggling with TFT, I would really appreciate that. And also I think they would too. So it's kind of like a win-win-win. But apart from that, that's going to be it for me today. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.